Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and I share videos on the topic of long COVID, chronic fatigue syndrome and mind-body approaches that can help with those conditions and other mind-body conditions. I also coach people who are interested in applying a mind-body approach to themselves during recovery. So for today's video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the differences between brain retraining and a mind-body approach. So some people will be really familiar with the term brain retraining and others won't be, so I'll explain that in a little bit more detail. But just to say from the outset, I'm not a medical professional, so this isn't medical or mental health advice. I'm just sharing things based on my own experience and my own learning. So brain retraining is a term that's used for certain programs online that are advertised for helping people with chronic fatigue syndrome, chronic pain, and other chronic health conditions. And within the programs, there are elements like education, which talk about managing fear. There are visualization exercises, meditation exercises, and ways of managing unhelpful or negative thinking. So a couple of programs that I'm aware of are the Gupta program, DNRS, and there are other programs as well that advertise as brain retraining. Within these programs, often they might not be that different to some other things that are not called brain retraining, or if you do research on mindset or meditation or nervous system regulation, you might find very similar ideas that you could come across in these courses. And I can't speak for all of the courses that are labelled with the term brain retraining because I haven't done all of the courses myself. I did at one point when I was unwell try the Gupta program. So I am aware of that, and I've come across quite a few people who have spoken about their experience of using the DNRS program as well. I wanted to go through a few of the differences between brain retraining and a mind-body approach. And when I say a mind-body approach, I'm specifically talking about a mind-body approach influenced by the work of Dr. John Sarno, Dr. Howard Schubner, Alan Gordon, and other people in that circle of doctors and therapists. Also, when I talk about brain retraining, I'm not referring to the Curable app, which is an app based on the work of Dr. John Sarno and Howard Schubner. And within this app, there's a section called Brain Retraining, but this is different to the programs that I'm discussing in this video. The mind-body connection, you could say, applies to so many different things out there, but the mind-body approach, or TMS standing for Tension Myositis or Myoneural Syndrome, is a more specific mind-body approach that does have differences to other interventions that involve the mind and emotions in terms of health. So with the brain retraining programs, and this is a generalization, as I said before, this might not apply to every single program, but often they have a specific routine of things that you're advised to do. So that might be, once you notice a negative or unhelpful thought, you might say some phrases like stop, 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 or you might be advised to do a specific routine where you imagine the opposite of that negative, turning that thought into a positive, or imagining a scenario where you're in some way self-soothing and comforting yourself, and then doing a positive visualization. So some of these elements can be really helpful. So becoming aware of thoughts, that is also relevant to a mind-body approach. Doing visualizations also are really useful in terms of helping your nervous system calm down and imagine future scenarios that you would like to be in with a calmer, more stable nervous system. However, with some of these brain retraining programs, they recommend that you do this in a certain sequence and a certain number of times a day. And they are less flexible than a mind-body approach. So you might be advised to meditate before breakfast and do this routine 3 times in a row, a specific routine 3 times in a row, involving becoming aware of thoughts and visualizations. Whereas with a mind-body approach, you're not specifically told to follow a specific routine. There are various different tools and you can apply them to yourself as and when they will work for you, and as and when you can fit them into your own schedule and into your own day. And it might also depend where you learn about a mind-body approach. In general, there's no specific definitive prescriptive advice around do X, Y, and Z however many times a day at specific times of the day. There are a number of different tools that you can use and that can be helpful. The other difference between a mind-body approach and these brain retraining programs is that there is less emphasis on emotional awareness and emotional expression in the brain retraining programs. They do talk about emotions, they do talk about, in some programs they talk about different parts, and they might talk about how to manage emotions. It's not to the same extent as the mind-body approach, which really focuses on becoming aware of emotions that you are not aware of and allowing yourself to process some of those emotions and be with some of those emotions when you might be used to having defenses that push emotions away or repress emotions. That side of it is quite different. And when I did the Gupta program, when I was quite unwell, I think maybe not having this element that comes with the mind-body approach was one of the reasons it didn't help me so much. Also, in terms of the structure, I found personally I'm not very good with structure, so it didn't suit me to do something specific at specific times of the day or to be told to meditate before breakfast, because that just didn't suit my body. And for some people it might be helpful to do it that way, but for me it just wasn't. So there's less emphasis on becoming aware of potential repressed emotions. And as I said before, this might not be the case for every brain retraining program, but for a mind-body approach, that is a really key aspect, and that is one of the most important parts of it. And not everyone needs to do that work, but a lot of people do, and it's helpful in terms of long-term recovery. And this is also the reason why some people may have tried meditation in the past. They may have done therapy in the past with multiple different therapists. They may have read lots of self-help books and have a lot of self-awareness. And they may think, well, the mind-body approach isn't going to help me because I've already done all of this work on myself. But actually, if you're not becoming aware of emotions that might be underlying your symptoms or that are repressed, then there is a chance that you're missing a really key piece. And conventional therapists are not in line with this approach. It's not mainstream, which means that they might be helping you manage past traumas, they might be helping you learn to become more aware of yourself, but that piece can be missing. And even though therapy could be helpful, despite that, it might not actually get to the key root of the issue in terms of health. And also, without understanding where symptoms come from, why symptoms are there, people will naturally fear symptoms, because if you think there's an unknown physical cause, then you are naturally going to live with uncertainty, and uncertainty generates some level of fear, whether it's conscious or unconscious. Often brain retraining programs are also a one-size-fits-all model, so they are the same program for everyone. And sometimes there's generalized advice given, like never talk about symptoms, which of course some people find helpful, but it might not be easy for others, or it might not be 100% appropriate for others. There might be other advice, like if you're not making progress, it's because you're not trying hard enough. And sometimes with a program, if someone is not trying the approach, it's not going to work. And if they don't believe the approach is going to work, again, it's unlikely to work. But if someone is trying their best and doing everything they can to use an approach and apply it to themselves, and they're not making progress, I don't think it's ever helpful to be told that the reason you're not making progress is because you're not trying hard enough. It puts the blame on the person who's unwell, and I don't think that's ethically right. And I would be wary of any program that does that. So there are some overlaps between a mind-body approach and these brain training programs in terms of becoming aware of thoughts, using visualizations. And many people do find these programs really helpful, or they might find them helpful for a period of time and then they don't find them helpful anymore, or they find it too hard to stick to the specific program, or they've stuck so stringently to the structure of the program that they find it hard to stop doing the routine itself. I'm surprised at how many people have mentioned that it has become an issue for them. And this is why learning to be flexible during recovery is really important. And doing something that's very rigid might not be helpful, especially if you already are someone who is very good at sticking to routine and being rigid about an approach. Sometimes unlearning some of that is actually really helpful for recovery. So this video is simply comparing a mind-body approach to brain retraining. And I have a biased view because I tried brain retraining and it didn't help me, and it wasn't an approach that I found made a big difference for me, whereas I did find a mind-body approach really helpful. So this is solely my perspective. I think a lot of people do find brain retraining programs helpful, and if you are using one right now and you find it helpful, then the main thing is you're finding something helpful, and that is really good. But if you're someone who has tried one of these programs and not found it helpful, or found it helpful at the start and then struggled and maybe lost some of your progress, then actually just know that these programs are not for everyone. They are more of a one-size-fits-all model, which doesn't allow for variability and flexibility. And also they might be leaving out aspects that are important for your recovery, which could be becoming aware of emotions that you are unaware of and learning how to do that, because it's one thing knowing that could be a problem, and it's a completely different thing actually learning how to do it. And it takes time and energy and trying a number of things in order to learn how to do that. So let me know if you found this video helpful and what your thoughts and experience are in relation to trying a brain retraining program compared to a mind-body approach, or if you were aware of these differences. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. If you would like to join my Facebook group or follow me on Instagram, the links are in the description below. For anyone who is interested in following a mind-body approach and wants some support and help applying it to themselves, I offer coaching, and there's a link to my website and booking a call with me in the description. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.